Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rath Building as we make an announcement with regards to the new director of Erie County's Office of Consumer Protection. I want to welcome you here today. Of course, we're joined by Karen Gambino from the Deaf Access Services, which is providing the American Sign Language to those who may be watching at home. We're also joined by Karen King, our Commissioner of the Department of Public Advocacy, as well as the Executive Director of the Commission on the Status of Women, as well as our new Director of the Office of the Consumer Protection, which is located in the Department of Public Advocacy, I should say, Jessica Polian. And hiding in the back there is our Commissioner of Personnel, Tim Hogues. But it is a good day to be here. I am very happy to introduce Jessica to the people of Erie County. Last year, as part of a restructuring with the Department of Public Advocacy, we realized that there was a need to provide additional assistance to our citizens with regards to consumer protection matters. We were seeing more scams, we were seeing more problems, and we realized that even though there are some agencies out there, including the Attorney General's office, which provide assistance with regards to consumer protection, we were getting a lot of contacts and calls from our citizens with regards to scams that were out there. We were seeing issues that needed to be addressed, and I felt it was appropriate to create an Office of Consumer Protection. And I want to thank the members of the Erie County Legislature who approved that last year, the creation of the office, as well as moving it in the Department of Public Advocacy under the leadership of Commissioner Karen King. And as a result, this year, after doing a search, we settled on an individual who you'll get an opportunity to meet in just a few moments, Jessica Polian, who brings to the table, so to speak, a lot of experience in dealing with these issues. We know, especially in this COVID-19 environment, that there's a lot of scams out there. Things just as much from the stuff that we've always dealt with in county government, the improper scaling of weights and measuring machines, to issues associated with the scams that we see in COVID-19, where you can get an at-home COVID-19 test that'll tell you within 15 minutes, even though we know that those don't exist. So we felt it was important that we have somebody in place. We do have someone in place, and as Jessica. And now I would like to introduce our Commissioner of the Department of Public Advocacy, Karen King, who will talk a little bit more about Jessica's responsibilities, as well as do the formal introduction. So Commissioner King, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. Jessica joined us in April and really hit the ground running. She's done a phenomenal job creating a social media presence and posting really important resources on our website, which she'll go into detail with you all in a moment, as well as share a pamphlet of information. And the timing really couldn't have been better. Regrettably, during COVID, there have been some not great practices out there in the public regarding price gouging and other misrepresentations of services. So she came at a time when we really needed her, and it really helps us deliver comprehensive, holistic services under the umbrella of public advocacy. So please welcome to the podium Jessica Polian.
Good morning. The Erie County Office of Consumer Protection was established to educate and empower the citizens of Erie County. Our office does include the Bureau of Weights and Measures. Our office will ensure that Erie County residents have education, guidance, and resources regarding consumer protection. This includes educating our consumers on policies, best practices, and their rights and responsibilities. Our office will investigate and resolve consumer complaints through voluntary mediation with businesses and consumers in Erie County, New York. If our office is unable to handle your complaint, we will get you to the appropriate agency, and when capable, we will facilitate those other agencies' complaint processes with you. Our office will work with local, state, and federal agencies to ensure consumer protections. You're able to reach our office via phone at 716-858-6169. You can email our office at consumerprotection@erie.gov. And our website is erie.gov/consumer protection. And we encourage everyone to follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Erie OCP.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm very pleased that we do have this office. Oops, take this off. I said I'm very pleased that we do have this office to assist the citizens of Erie County. I know Jessica's already had a number of issues that she's dealt with, and we really hadn't even advertised that the office was up and running. So I assume as people become more aware that the office is there to help them, she's not only going to get a lot of calls and a lot more contact, but we'll be able to deal with a lot more in the future of assisting our citizens in addressing the problems that they may have, as well as notifying citizens of just the various scams and problems that exist out there. So we're very glad to have her on the team, and I am very glad to have her on the team. And we know that as a result, the people of Erie County will be better served by having the Office of Consumer Protection and Jessica working on their behalf. With that, we'll entertain some questions. On topic, yes. I'm sure. Well, what we were finding out is the bureau in the Attorney General's office was not, there was more of a prosecution aspect of it. It wasn't the direct day-to-day contact that sometimes the consumers are looking for. So they would basically file a complaint with the Attorney General's office, and then the Attorney General's office would investigate it and eventually get back to the individual. And what we were finding out is some of these issues needed to be resolved in a very short basis. And we felt that it was appropriate, considering we already had a consumer protection aspect existing in Erie County through the Weights and Measures Division, that we could fulfill that with the creation of the office and the creation of Jessica's position. The Attorney General's office does a great job, but they're also more of a prosecution aspect. They're less the day-to-day function. Like, we're out there doing the scales and the weights and the measures, and when we find a problem, we can find businesses that aren't doing things properly. If an individual has a problem, they need someone that can sometimes mediate it immediately, not wait for a prosecution that might take months. So we felt it was necessary, and already she's dealt with a number of issues and been able to resolve them in a very quick manner that the Attorney General's office might not have been able to do for some time. It is mediation. I'll turn it over to Jessica to talk a little bit more, but we do offer mediation services to businesses. I think any business would like to avoid a prosecution if possible, and most individuals would like to just get their thing resolved as quickly as possible. And so the mediation is an aspect that we feel is very important. I'll turn it over to Jessica.
In regards to the consumer complaints, when they've been filed, we do reach out to the business and work with them to try to mediate a resolution. So that it doesn't have to go to litigation. There are cases where it's going to be, but it's not just for consumers. Businesses can use our services too, because there's been times since we've got complaints, since I've started, where we've had to educate the businesses who aren't aware of their rights or their responsibilities. When something occurs, they just don't know. So we give them the information, point them in the right direction, and we're able to get immediate assistance for the consumers. Yes, we can do that. There is thresholds that they must meet before the Attorney General can take action. However, there's other local law enforcement that we can work with to make sure that the consumer gets a resolution.
Are there any other questions on topic? Glad to answer any off-topic questions. Don't know if it'd be the answer you're looking for. I've not in the last 24 hours. I did have conversations with New Era and the Bills in regards to when New Era laid off the individuals at the Derby, Angola facility. I expressed my disappointment back then. My view has not changed. They laid off over 200 individuals in this community from a facility that was actually making money last year. My understanding is I think they had over 400, they identified over 480 individuals in the PPP program, though some of their employees that they furloughed were actually on unemployment. and a number of those individuals were officially laid off yesterday. I'm not certain whether they were included in the 480 individuals that New Era applied for in the PPP loan/grant. It's just sad that we have this stadium that's owned by the people of Erie County, and when people think of New Era in this community right now, they don't have a good feeling about it. I mean, I don't want any company to have financial problems. We know a lot of companies are having financial problems. It's just disappointing when I know that millions of dollars are being paid annually with regards to the naming rights, not going to Erie County. We don't get a penny. And at the same time, here's now another 117 local residents, maybe not all Erie County, but Western New York residents who are being laid off. I understand why businesses lay off, but it's not a good sign when you've got a name on the stadium that's owned by the people of Erie County, when now more than 300 individuals in basically a year's time will have been laid off locally by that company. I said it yesterday. I mean, I'm not going to refer to it by that name, the stadium that is. I mean, the Pagulas have the naming rights. When we negotiated the last lease, the Bills wanted the naming rights for Ralph Wilson. They wanted the naming rights in the team, but they said they will keep the name Ralph Wilson. They weren't going to sell the naming rights, but they wanted the naming rights for Mr. Wilson, so we allowed them to do that. When the Pagulas came over, they had the naming rights. They sold the naming rights. They could do that legally. As long as I'm county executive, we're going to have as we go in the future with any new lease or whatever happens in the future, we're going to have a serious discussion about naming rights, because this is owned by the people of Erie County. And I know a lot of people who contacted me last year when the incident happened in Derby, or not incident, when the layoffs happened in Derby, and we tried to save it, and I met with Chris Cook, and he basically told me there's nothing you can do. There's no tax break you can give me. I'm shutting down that facility. Said that to me last year. At this point, I'm just gotten to a point where we want good corporate citizens here. We want to work together, and I'm very disappointed in their actions. Maybe that name stays on the stadium for the next few years, but I'm not going to be calling it. Yeah. Well, when you talk about various standards associated with corporate governance and corporate compliance, as an attorney, I know there's the legal standard, there's the bare minimum, but then there's a lot more when you talk about good corporate citizenship. And I would hope that we would have good corporate citizenship for the companies that are associated with the facilities that are in our community, including those that pay naming rights. There's two major facilities, actually three, I should say, that have naming rights right now for the major sports facilities: the baseball stadium, the hockey arena, and the football stadium. And I don't know of anything that would indicate that the individuals or the companies that have the naming rights with the hockey arena or the baseball stadium have done anything that would indicate that their name shouldn't be on the stadium locally. It's the problem with naming rights. When you give up naming rights, and these naming rights have been given up since the mid-90s, the football team has had the naming rights since then, that you as a community lose a little bit of control of what is your community asset. There's a reason why we don't do naming rights on other county buildings, because it would potentially not only be tacky, but you could end up in a situation that you don't want. You could have naming rights on a facility for a company that doesn't exist in your community anymore, but they still have a name on a building. They still have a name on a facility. I would hope that those that spend money, millions of dollars annually for naming rights on a facility, understand that all these companies are people-based. And this company, New Era, used to have multiple facilities, factories in this region. All those factories are closed. While they may be a worldwide product right now, they would not be in the situation they are today without the hard work and the sweat of the employees from this region. And I would hope that they'd give back a little bit more. They have a legal contract to have naming rights. They're paying millions of dollars annually for naming rights. Maybe some of those millions of dollars could go to actually pay for their employees rather than naming rights for a football stadium that might not even hold a football game this year. We still don't even know. I'd rather see the money being spent on the employees. There's tough decisions that have to be made. I get it. Erie County had to lay off some employees. If we give federal aid, our goal is to bring back those employees. They got federal aid. They may have met the letter of the law, but it doesn't pass the smell test.
Is that the flaw with, excuse me, is that the flaw with the PPP program? Is that as long as you have people on the payroll for 8 weeks, you can get the loan and you can be able to forgive it?
Well, I mean, that's part of the issue. And what I found out yesterday from a number of individuals who were being laid off is they weren't on the payroll. New Era paid their insurance, but they furloughed them and said, go apply for unemployment from New York State. Now, I don't know if those individuals were counted in the PPP numbers that they put in. If they were counted, then New Era's got some accounting to do. Because if they said, yes, we're paying all these people, but they're only paid their insurance, but they didn't pay their salaries, and they said, go apply for unemployment with New York State, and that's what those people did, that may be not following the letter of the law. And I've heard that from at least 2 of the soon-to-be laid-off employees that, yeah, I was furloughed, I was on unemployment. New Era only paid for my insurance, and they didn't even pay for their dental or vision. They only paid for their health insurance. And then, if you noticed in the statement that New Era said, is they said most of those individuals at the Buffalo facility were furloughed, and they were calling them back. I think it's important to know, did they pay the salaries of those employees that were furloughed, or were they all on unemployment? But did New Era apply for PPP loan and get it under the assumption that those individuals are still going to get paid payroll? I don't know that. I think it's important that the federal government, which is the PPP program, look into it. Senator Schumer, when he was here yesterday, noted his disappointment in that. And he said there are problems with the expiration of the PPP program and so forth. So it is a serious concern that I think should be looked at. And I know when it comes to the federal government, they do audits. They audited us with regards to a couple of the money that we received from some of our storms. And we had to show that, yes, you're auditing us. Here's the proof that we spent the money legitimately. I hope they did. I don't know. I just had a call from a couple of employees saying, I've been on unemployment for the last few months. They paid my health insurance. If they counted those employees as being on their payroll so that they could get the PPP program, that's wrong. If they didn't, okay, then I guess they still would have qualified. They just had to show that the people that were on that payroll were actually on the payroll. New Era is going to have to account for that. Thanks, everyone. I want to thank Karen for being here, and of course, welcome to the team once again, Jessica.